Let's face it, we all love stories. People around the world benefit and enjoy the adventure, hope, character, and growth that they so abundantly provide. Many people have experienced live storytelling, whether that be from their grandfather each Christmas, or a professional who is trained and taught to bring you tales with many meanings. Stories can be found in the movies you watch, books, of course, and storytelling workshops, to name a few. They are meant to move us, inspire, and excite. For centuries, people's lives have not only been changed by books and the stories they tell, but built around them and through them. From religious books like the Bible and the Quran, to adventure books like Beowulf or Robinson Crusoe, words have been treasured and loved, and will continue to do so in the years to come. But it isn't just the audio that is so outstanding about stories. It's the visual as well. Both movies and children's picture books make use of this feature, just as people did in the medieval times. Cover pages were created so elegantly that it pretty much overwhelmed the words on the page. But how were these books made? How did they change? And why don't we see such craftsmanship in modern books, like those in our local libraries or bookstores? Today you can publish books by the thousands, whereas back then each manuscript was a one-of-a-kind and very expensive. So let's dive deeper into the making, meaning, and evolution of something we all take for granted: books. While the books themselves are given much praise, their actual creators are often little thought about. The tedious, time-consuming work called for individuals of endless patience and knowledge. Often, when making a manuscript, several different people would be needed to contribute in the step of their specialty. Everything each person brings to the table is worth its own deep exploration and analysis. It is important to appreciate those who devoted their lives to preserving the history of their people. Before the printing press was created, presumably by Johannes Gutenberg in the 15th century, each individual manuscript had to be created by hand. Most books were written in Latin, Greek, or Hebrew, so scribes generally knew not only one or more of these languages, but the different fonts and intricacies it required. Translations were also in high demand, which adds to the already heavy workload. Luckily, the ink, which was usually made from gallnuts or carbon, would easily be scraped off when an error occurred. Because the paper was so durable, these kinds of scrapings would affect it very little. Calves and sheep are among a few animals whose strong hides were used as trusted paper sources known as parchment and vellum. Only the finest skins would be selected because there was no room in creating manuscripts for errors. To take the hair off easily and efficiently, the skins were soaked in lime water for several days. After that, they were moved to a frame to begin the scraping process. This was highly necessary because the inside of the skin often contained bits of fat from the animal's body. As this process progresses, the frame is tightened to provide a thin and finished look. Today, synthetic material, often made of cotton and wood mixtures, are used to provide a cheaper substitute for these ancient supplies. Unfortunately, they aren't nearly as durable as the skins we once used, and can only take so many erasures. Sometimes the illuminations would be applied even before the words. We might imagine working with paint such as this as a no-going-back procedure, but that's far from true. The picture could be traced before any color was added to it. The gold leaf, which is the most popular among the precious metals that were used, would be applied over a gum or plaster-like substance. Then the remaining bits were brushed off and finally polished. The paint had to be specially made from plant dyes and minerals to create its beautiful colors. Hundreds of different shades would be applied, starting with the lightest and ending with the most vibrant and robust colors. Sometimes it would take days to complete one picture, and the results were always magnificent. Just a cover page alone would fetch a high price in any time period, but most especially here today. After the pages were written and decorated, it was time to bind them. Small groupings of just a few sheets of paper were put together in a gathering. Several of these would be sewn together in thick thread onto several leather thongs. The thongs would then be woven into the cover material, which was usually wooden boards. The boards would then be decorated to create a beautiful cover, depending on how wealthy the buyer was and the book's intended use. The covers could be made simply, with silk or other precious fabrics, covered with leather or stamped. The best of these were made of decorations sculpted from the metals using a variety of methods. One of the most rewarding of these was the repoussé, which consists of designs and metalwork by pushing on the opposite side. Small pieces of glass, gold, and other precious metals and gems were all used to create the perfect cover. Covers could be made with a three-dimensional perspective. The jeweled cover titled Crucifixion from the Lindau Gospels is a shining example of this. Everything in this cover seems to foretell the contents that are within the book itself. The cross that Jesus finds himself on have arches that look as if they're holding it up like it was a structure. In fact, the cross itself is created in the same shape of the future church buildings that will become popular in the days to come. We see a lot of repoussé in this as well, particularly in the angels that rest just above Jesus' arms on either side of him, as well as his own body and other areas throughout the images. During the ages, there were countless tragedies that rained destruction upon books, such as the Library of Alexandria in 48 BC. Somehow, through it all, countless works have still survived, and medieval manuscripts are making a comeback. More people are learning how to make these works of art, and the results are magnificent. It is always beneficial to the world to recreate and relove this glorified art form to gain full appreciation. It helps us to understand where our stories come from and the struggles many survived. Whether you like books or not, it is hard to avoid appreciating the beautiful manuscripts and the work that went into them. At least for myself, I'll always love and treasure one of the most wonderful, trusted, and expensive masterpieces in the medieval world. I'd like to thank various YouTube videos such as the Getty Museum Making Manuscripts, What is Vellum and How Do You Use It, and the Lindau Gospel covers by Khan Academy. Also, the website Who Invented the Printing Press from livescience.com.